Good evening, and welcome to the Thursday Camera Artist Guild Image Critique. And I am your host, George DeLoache. I'm a portrait artist and photographer's coach. And this is where we help you to learn to master the photographic arts. I come from Los Angeles, California. Forgot to mention that. But really, getting back to mastering, and that just one point I wanted to drive home when it comes to mastering the photographic arts. It sounds simple, and we talked last week about the fundamentals of mastery, about tying your shoelaces, about mastery stacking. But I just want to drive that point home. It's one thing to take a photograph and every now and then get a good photograph, and that makes you feel good. I know when I first went to photo school, I went to Kent State University in photojournalism, and the first thing the professor taught us told us was that a monkey and enough film can make a Pulitzer Prize. So if you take enough images, every now and then you'll have a good one. But what makes you a really advanced amateur or a number one pro, semi or full-time pro, is being able to ace every one. Just about. Now, not everybody's going to be, not every image is going to be perfect. There are going to be people turn their heads. There are going to be, blinks. There are going to be other stuff. But as when it comes to the technical aspects of photography, that needs to be perfect each and every time and predictable, to where you can predict what you're doing with that lighting and with that photograph. You control every aspect of that photograph. You control the color. You control the light balance. You control the composition. You control the lighting and lighting ratio between shadow and highlight, and lighting direction. Each one of those things has something to do with the components of the photograph. Now, I remember when I took my first photograph and showed it to somebody, first good photograph, and they really loved it, and they told me how great that photograph was, and that made me feel really special inside. You've heard me explain it a bunch of times. I was a geeky little kid, couldn't play basketball, couldn't do music worth anything. But boy, when I found photography, I found my voice. I found something that I could do, that I could create, that someone else could appreciate and close the loop by praising me and letting me know that they enjoyed what I did for them. And that really felt good. And I am continuing that, and I am sure that probably most of you have had identically the same experience. The thing is that we want to be able to do that regularly. Now, when it comes to being a pro, I still get that same reward. I still want people to like what I do. I like to say I work for the applause. Money is just a way of keeping score. But in reality, I want that approval. But that takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes mastery and mastering of each one of those areas. I'd like to focus in on a little area of the art of photography tonight for just a little bit, and that is your lighting ratios, the amount of light that you have in the shadow, or the controlling of the light that you have in the shadows, and the controlling of the light that you have in the highlights, and that transfer between highlight and shadow, whether it's a broad, gradual grading from the highlight into the shadow, or whether it's a stark, hard line into the highlight, into the shadow, and how much of a difference there is between the shadow value and the highlight value, and where that shadow is placed. You see, photography is not only just an art of controlling the light, but you also need to control the shadow. The shadow is just as important as the light. It is what balances off, and it's what adds mood or sets the tone of everything. And so, learning to use learning to use the fill light, or a fill source, a way of controlling the shadow side of your photograph, as well as controlling the diffuse value, is just as important. I meter most of the time for the shadows. I add and subtract light into that shadow consciously, looking at it and deciding just how dense that I want that shadow for the type of a mood that I'm trying to shape in the image that I'm working on. If I'm looking for something that is dramatic and kind of shocking, then maybe it will be a deeper lighting ratio. We will have a 3-to-1. That is, the shadow side is 3 times darker than the highlight side. Or it could be a 2-to-1, or it could be a 1-to-1 in an image that's being made for an executive portrait, where you want all of the lighting specifically there together. But know what you want and know how to control that light and that shadow. And there's 2 ways that you can control the light in the shadow for the most part. There is a passive fill and there is an active fill. An active fill means that you punch light into that shadow some kind of way, through strobe, through a continuous light source, through but some kind of a way that you're actively applying light to that shadow. The other side is a passive fill, and that is something that's reflecting light into that shadow or the ambient light that's in the room. And you have to know what that variation is between the shadow and the highlight. So the first thing I do in my composition is decide upon what f-stop that I'm looking for when it comes to what I want from my composition. Now, I understand with the not lighting ratio, with the zone system, understanding the zone system, we talked about that before, but I want my diffuse values, this value of the light here that you're seeing, the main source of light here, I want that to be right in the center of the zone, right between 0 and 11. The reason for that is that that takes advantage of my maximum dynamic range of the image. Now, what I will do is I will decide, let's say I want 5/6. I want 5/6 compositionally for where I want my depth of field set, how I'm going to approach the image compositionally. You can pick anything that you want, depending upon, you may want to shoot wide open, you may want to shoot f/16, but you make that decision. Now, after making that decision, now I'm going to bring in my diffuse value. And it's considering I'm working in the studio. If I'm working outside on location and my key light is the sun or a street light or something outside of my control, then I do have to work within the parameters of the lighting triangle to accomplish the f-stop I'm after. I may have to raise the ISO. I may have to lower the shutter speed. I may have to raise the shutter speed, lower the ISO, in order to get my f value where I want it compositionally. But once arriving at that f-stop value, that's going to be my zone 5, center of the zone system. And that's going to be the diffuse value, for the most part, the area of the image that's being exposed by the main light source, be it either ambient or artificial. And so I'm going to take my meter and I'm going to use an incident meter, and I'm going to point that incident meter at the light source, at the place where I have the diffuse value that I want, this area over here. I'm going to point it at the light source, and I'm going to take a reading, and then I'm going to adjust until I get 5/6 at that light source. Again, like I said, I'm adjusting the ISO, I'm adjusting the shutter speed. If I'm dealing with a ambient light source that I can't affect, I can't change, I can't make brighter or darker, I'm stuck with it. The window light, sunlight, something like that. Adjust the shutter speed, adjust the ISO, come to 5/6. Or if I'm in the studio, then I can choose the lowest ISO possible that I can get to limit the amount of noise that's being induced into the system. And I can adjust the output of the strobe. That is, I can continue to increase or decrease the strobe until I get 5/6. Now I have just set my diffuse values at zone 5, which is 18% gray, exactly what the meter reads. All your meters read zone 5. On your camera meters are a little bit different, but the handheld meter all reads zone 5. The camera meter reads zone 5 also, but it's a lot trickier. There's a lot more intimate stuff. But getting back to it. Now, after I have that diffuse value set where I want it 5.6, now I'm going to block that light with my hand from the incident. Now, this is an antique meter, but it'll give you an idea of what we're talking about. I'm going to take the incident dome that I'm going to have. It's an antique meter, but I'm going to read my diffuse value and get it, set it at zone 5 where I want it. Now I'm going to cover that up with my hand so that none of the light is falling on the dome from the main light, and I'm going to point that dome towards the shadows, and I'm going to take another reading. And now I'm going to calculate where I am. If it's F5.6 and it's F3.5, I determine how deep I want that shadow. I may have to move my reflector closer, which increases the amount of light that the reflector puts on the subject. I may move my reflector farther away. I may tune up my fill light, dial up my fill light. I may dial down my fill light, but I control each and every aspect of that light so that I end up with a shadow value and a highlight value, creating the mood that I want out of the image by controlling the two or the lighting ratio. Then there's lighting direction, and we won't even go into that this week. Well, I'll talk a little bit about it when we get into the camera or we get into the images. But anyway, that pretty much covers a quick little lesson on lighting ratios. Let me pop this up and over to Photoshop, and here we go. First image, and don't forget to get your images in. We were a little late on images this week. We had enough. I only go for 5, but be sure to get your images in for next week's critique. And here we go. First image is Anthony Robertson. Robertson. I'm not sure whether you pronounce your name Robertson or Robertson. However, Anthony, this is a great image, but there's a couple of areas there that I want to point out to you. Now, I love the background, foreground, or background, midground, background subject separation. That small amount of light or fill that you're using back here in the back. This is the same general technique that Rembrandt used. I've used it all my career, and I love it. And what it does is it adds a third dimension to the image. Now you're dealing with a two-dimensional image. It's got height and it's got width, but it's got no depth. So depth is implied, and we imply depth through different compositional techniques. And this is one of them where you put a small fade in there. You do have some of your kicker coming in here to the side. Maybe you could tune that up a little bit. It's not that important. The main thing is the light height. Now, your light height here is coming in just a little bit on the high side. And the reason why I'm saying it's on the high side is that you really don't see any catch lights in the eye. The eyes have gone blank. And it would really do. Now, there's a bit of a catch light right there, but a catch light, I like to place that catch light just a little bit beneath the eyelid. Now, I don't know whether you're using a grid or not. I think you are, but I would be using a grid system and then lower that light just a little bit. Now, another way to tell how high the light is and whether it works or not, besides the shadows under the eye, is this is basically a what they call a butterfly lighting technique. And it's butterfly lighting because they call this shadow under the nose butterfly. If this tip of the butterfly right down here, this tip here close to the lip, intersects the lip, comes in contact with the lip, it's just a little too high. The light is just a little too high. So lower it just a little bit, bring your shadow back along about there. That would fill in light into the eyes, and it would help you in your shadows under the eyes. Now, because you're applying black makeup to the eye, or the makeup artist or whoever applied the makeup applied a shadow underneath the eye, which makes the eye even darker, and it kind of it accentuates the eye and makes it almost bulge. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can work with that catch light, and I am going to see if I can't just demonstrate this really quick. Let's go. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to come over here and duplicate the layer, or and get a blank layer. And I'm going to come up here to my brushes, and I'm going to look for one of these odd size brushes, something along in this general shape. I'm going to make sure my white is selected. I'm going to shrink the size of. Let's see here. For some reason, it's not shrinking the way it should. There we go. Okay. They're gonna give it to me now, yeah. There we go. Let's take it. I have no idea why this is not. Well, ain't that a sweet kettle of fish? Okay, so we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. We'll drop it down here a little ways. Figure right about, maybe a little bit larger. In between those two. Right about there. Let's go up here to this portion of the eye, and let's just okay, we're at 20% opacity. Let's just go to 50% and place that catch light right about there, and we're just gonna bump it up a little bit, and that helps out quite a little bit. I don't like that one right there, so I'm going to just Control Z, back it up a little bit, move this just a little bit higher. Okay, there we are there. That's good enough. Let's go to the pointer tool. Let's back it out just a little bit with the pointer tool, and let's just rotate that just a little bit there. Okay. And let's come in again. And we're going to go back off that layer and get rid of the lettering. Okay, there we go. We've just added a little catch light to each eye, which sparks the image quite a little bit. Now, I would have to play with it a little bit more. If it's a bit too bright, then all you'll need to do is come up here and there we go. Select that layer. Whoops. Select and go to your opacity slider. Slide it all the way down. They disappear. Let's bring it back up. Back up, back up, back up, right about there. There we go. We don't, and that gives you just the catch lights, and that pops that off. Now the circle under the eye, I think you could probably doll that up just a little bit. Let's add another layer. Let's convert that layer to overlay, and let's get another brush. But now we're going to switch that. Now we got a brush tool, Control B. Well, I'll tell you, it's not behaving for me today. I don't know why my shortcuts aren't popping. We go to our brush tool. Let's go back to a soft edge brush. No. There we go. Soft edge round brush. There we are. Okay, and let's see, will it increase? It won't increase or it won't decrease. Well, I will be. Let's just raise it a little size wise. Yeah, about there. Let's put it an opacity of 10%. So we run in, boy, I'll tell you, it's really acting up on me today. For some reason, it's not cooperating. There we go. It's going 10%. We're at 10%. And we're white brush. We're soft edge brush. Enlarge this just a little bit. And you're just going to open this area up here. You're just going to paint that white in there a little bit, and that's going to cause that darker area to lighten up just a hair. And you want to come down here and maybe go around in there. That's too much. Control Z, move it back out. Okay, that should give you just a little bit on the eye. There's that, and there's that. Now, the final thing would be to pop up the irises, and I will show you that at another time. I don't want to spend too much time on this one image, but this ought to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do to pick the image up. But if you lower that light source at the time of capture, it will make all the difference in the world. Okay, Rob, Tony, Anthony. Wow. Thanks, man. You're looking good. You do really good work, brother. I'm glad to see your stuff. Okay, Willie Demetrius Richardson. Looks like Baywatch up there. uh, interesting shot. The whole lifeguard shot, the Baywatch routine. You are adding some artificial light in there, and this is a difficult photograph to pull off because you are shooting up at someone. You can't get your light source high enough to really illuminate them the way they need to be illuminated. And you're at that time of day when the light is just beginning to fade away. But all in all, it's a good image. You are able to capture a mood and tell a narrative, and it's exposed properly. Skin tones look good, and we get the idea. So, very good. Tony Shaw, fabulous. Tony, this is really great. I love the way you're going. You have that Rembrandtish type of spot on the back, the separating the subject from the background. Your skin tones are just right on the money. Just beautiful skin tones. I like the lighting style that you were using. You may, and I'm just suggesting, you may want to add in a bit of a kicker. I would add one on both sides, but very, very, very light. You you almost don't want to see it. You just want to raise the values of the light around here and let there be a little more sheen in the hair, if you could get away with it, because you've done such wonderful stuff with the light coming in the front. Now you're using clamshell lighting. This is one of my favorite light styles, and you have the light in the right position. Let me just enlarge this a little bit larger, and you'll see what I mean if you look at the catch lights in the eye. You'll see that your catch light is just peeking out from underneath the upper eyelid, which is just right where it should be. And this butterfly is coming down and intersecting mid lip. And so everything is exactly as it should be. Congratulations, Tony. This is a good image. Your color saturation is right on, and your contrast and skin tones. So well done. Okay, Lee McDonald. Interesting photograph. I really love rock violin. There's a group called Black Violin that's just, man, they're off the hook. They're really really good. And this I don't know whether he's a jazz violinist or whether he's rock or whether he's where he is on the scale, but you're color coordinated. The violin and the man's shirt. Uh, I am a little bit apprehensive about the light direction. It's a little bit strong, and it's coming in directly from side light position. It's coming in directly from the side over here. Now, some of that's got to be done so that you can get light up underneath this brim of the hat. If you raise it too high, then you're going to have a terrible shadow over here on the face. I would actually try, if I could, to maneuver that light. It depends upon where it is in the ocean and how far away you are, whether you have somebody with you or not. But I would like to see the light moved a little farther out to the subject's left, making more of this area, putting more of this area in shadow as in short light. And I think that it would really spike it up just a little bit and add to the mood, because you want a more dramatic type of a mood when you're dealing with music. But all in all, it's well exposed, good color, nice. It's on the 1/3 compositional line. Very good. Okay, and Jerome Lynch. This is a really cool image, Jerome. I got to give it to you. Let me move my palettes out of the way. The reason why it's really cool is you got so much going on, but I'd like to work it even more. Now, you may have other images, but it would just, I think that with everybody here blowing bubbles rather than throwing the rice and everything, the faces, uh, I would just like to back out a little bit. I mean, I understand where you're cropping for the bride and groom, and this is the main focal point. But I'd like to do one where we are telling a narrative, telling the story of the wedding goers, because when you're in the process of creating images for the wedding, what you're really doing is telling their story. You're telling their love story and recording the most important event in their life outside of the birth of their first child. And so you want to include all of these people are important to them. They know everybody and they want to see everybody there when they're reminiscing about the wedding. So go ahead, nail this one up close, but then back it out. Hopefully, you're using a zoom, 17 to 55, or yeah, would be fine somewhere in that focal length, depending on whether you got Canon, Nikon, Sony, or even Fuji, I guess, is still out there. But just consider that adding a little bit more to the story. Your exposure is right on. You got them looking at each other, sharing the love. It's perfect, except for let's see a little bit more of the people here around joining in. Like this guy over here on camera right. They're just, it's more to be seen in the image. Okay, very good. And that does it for this week. Let me just crank it off and turn around to the camera. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. All right. No, there are no questions on the comments. I hope that I didn't confuse you too much with the lighting ratios, but in Camera Artist Guild, we're going to try to help you improve and master all three areas of photography, which is the area of art, that's the actual art of photography, business, that's the business, doing the business side of photography, and then finance. Now we aren't into finance, and I'm not going to really spend much time on it because I'm just learning it the way I'm supposed to. But let me just point out one thing to you there, just on that note, just as a passing. The only way you build wealth is that you get your money to work for you rather than you working for your money, because there's only a certain amount of time. Every day only has 24 hours. Every job, you only have so much time. And so you are trading, regardless of how you're pricing it, you're trading so much time in your life for so much money. And so there's only so much time, no matter how much you charge, there's only so much time. You can only charge for the amount of time that you can work. But if you can get your money to work for you, it'll work for you when you're asleep. So do some investigation. Think about what you're doing. Don't be the kind of guy that wears the $200 sneakers and then puts a Big Mac on his credit card, because that money is wasted. You're giving that money to the credit card company, and all they're doing is making grip on your back on the hours that you work, so that they dilute the amount of money that you're actually getting paid for the hour. So when you can get free from credit, but then take your money and invest it and put it in there so that it works for you. I'm not going to go into anything anything advanced, because I am just, like I said, I'm just learning. But I know one thing, that you got to put that money away, and putting it away in the bank, okay, for a little while, but find a way that you can get that money to work for you, and that will add wealth to your life, build wealth to your life. Your business will add a greater value per hour for the amount of hours that you put in, and improving and increasing your ability as a photographer will increase the amount that you can charge for your work. So all of those things together, that does it for another week. I really, I forgot about the housekeeping sort of stuff. If you were watching this thing on YouTube, would you go ahead and smash the like button down below so that I can build up the algorithm a little bit? If you're watching on Camera Artist Guild page, you're welcome to watch the page and follow the page. However, if you want to submit images, come on over to Camera Artist Guild group and ask to join. You'll answer a couple questions, and then I will let you into the group. Then all you have to do is put a post up, and in that post, attach your image to that post, and it will come up into the news feed, or into the discussion feed, and I'll select 5 images each week to critique and go over. And of course, you have the entire community working and helping you to grow. The only way you can get better is to continue to work at what you were doing, and work at trying to improve, work at trying to educate yourself, and then have your work looked at by someone you trust that can point out areas that you need to improve in order to continue to refine your craft, because it is a craft and you can learn it. Nobody comes by it automatically. You may have a lucky occurrence a few times. You may, as I mentioned earlier, take enough photographs that every now and then you get a good one. But if you want to be able to produce high quality work on demand, it only comes with practice and in the mastery of that particular aspect of photography. Enough said for this week. Thanks a lot, everybody, for being here. We'll see you again next week. And I'm going to get out of here. There we go.